So personal branding is you starting to be intentional about how people get that from you. You know your personality. Like, I know I'm a rowdy person. So I now start to control or be intentional about how people get off my rowdiness. I know my experiences. I know the things I've gone through. I know the stories I've had growing up with my father. So now I control how I want people to get those, because I want them to have a perception about me. I know my different skill sets in content writing, this marketing, strategy. So now I want to.
Hi, and welcome to the WowFactor Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Samuel Kamugisha. On this podcast, I host different personalities from all walks of life, and they get to share their personal and professional experiences with the main aim of providing you the necessary tips for you to positively impact your community. So, enjoy this discussion. Welcome to the WowFactor Podcast, and today on our 40th episode, season finale, we have a very special guest. I have seen her on LinkedIn for quite some number of years, and I've seen how she has grown exponentially, and she has grown a personal brand very, very amazingly. She's a personal branding coach and the founder of the African Sisters Network. And without further hesitation, I would like to invite her to talk on this episode about building timeless personal brands. Victoria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Samuel, for having me. How are you doing?
Doing great. How have you been? How has your day been?
I've been good. It's a rainy morning in Kampala, and it being rainy, I think, explains why I woke up with a very bad cold. But we are doing good, and we're here to have a wonderful conversation.
That's awesome. So, for starters, who is Victoria?
Victoria Nyanzi. Every time I always have a different way I'll answer that question. But today, like the way you introduced me, Victoria Nyanzi is a personal branding coach. But before that, Victoria Nyanzi is the firstborn of 4 children. I'm the firstborn, and I'm the firstborn of 4 girls. Explains why I have a lot of energy, I think. And I've been raised by my dad for most of my life. Also explains, I think, why I have a lot of energy still. Because people tell me, you must be one of those girls that grew up with your father. I was raised in a very community-ish kind of surrounding. But in Kampala here, I grew up from Kampala. I'm a church person. I love God. I have a strong relationship with God, a very strong one. To the extent that right now, some of the components that I use for my brand growth, like a professional headshot, I pray for it every day. Like, I wake up in the morning and tell God, bless this space. That everybody that looks at this space find it amazing. Let them want to work at this space. So in a nutshell, without any kind of titles or anything, like, I'm a daughter, I'm a lover of God. I love my family. I have a very strong relationship with my family. I speak to my dad like 2 days a week. We could even speak every day. I speak with my sister and siblings every day, even when I don't stay with them. Professionally, I'm a marketer and public relations consultant. There's a mix of the two, because I studied a bachelor's degree in business administration and majored in marketing. But then I later also took a twist and did a diploma in public relations, and certified by the Institute in London, CIPR. But I have a strong passion for just the first interactions. Like, I call it that first impression that you get when you interact with someone. I have a very strong passion for that. And that passion grew when I was just seeing how my initial stages of career were. I used to switch jobs a lot. I would move from one job to another. But I noticed that used to be influenced by how people would interact with me in the first minute, in the first instant that they've met me. So that drove me to really understand, how are people able to love me, maybe like me? Did they like the way I spoke, the way I dressed? Because, people give you that compliment that from day one, when I met you, you gave me a very wonderful first impression. So I went further to try and understand that. How can someone even create a lasting first impression? What is a first impression? And in all of those different findings and learning, I went in and tried to learn something called personal branding, that actually sometimes to create a lasting first impression or to even be memorable, you probably need a strong personal brand, because personal branding comes from understanding who you are in depth and then giving it out externally. So that drove me to really taking up and understanding that topic of personal branding, where I took up a 3-month course with Image Group International. And I would say I'm a personal branding coach. So I'm a marketer, a publicist, and a personal branding coach. I run a coaching community called the African Sisters Network. And what we do is we coach and mentor young girls from the ages of 18 to 28. We want to teach them how to tell their stories, how to be bold about their stories, build their brands like very, very unapologetically. That's one of the things I have done. I'm unapologetic about building my brand, no matter what somebody says. And I want to teach as many young girls to do that as possible. So we're on a mission to empower 1 million African girls by 2040. Super crazy, but I know we'll get there. That's Victoria. It's a lot, but that's Victoria.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. Okay. Let me see where to pick it up. So why the change to PR?
There was no change. It's not like a big change, but my first job right after school was in public relations. I did PR consultancy sort of for 3 months for Club Pilsner, a beer. We had a couple of events that I was handling PR for. So I think that drove me to it created that other interest in me, because the roles were around, negotiating with different vendors, then all of these press releases, organizing launches and everything. And this was different from what I had studied in marketing in school, because then marketing was strategy, digital, all of those things. But it's so funny that after that role, I then went in, I joined a bank for another junior banking role at the Till. But from the banking, e-commerce, I went back to marketing agencies. And even what we're doing in the marketing agencies was just, of course, digital marketing, content marketing, and everything. But there's something within me that one loved writing. Like I love writing, and recently I noticed I also love policy and all of those things. So that little love for writing, engaging with stakeholders is, I think, what drove me to really want to understand public relations in depth. And I think God is also always on my side sometimes. As I had that love, a role came in to do a PR for an agency in Uganda. So they required me to then take up a diploma in public relations for me to be able to do the role very well. And that's how I ended up doing that. But I always want to find a balance. I'm a marketer and a publicist, because at least the two can actually work hand in hand. Right now, public relations steals something from marketing, and marketing steals from public relations. It's just like how sales has to steal from marketing and marketing has to steal from sales.
Okay, so they move hand in hand. You cannot separate them fully.
Yes, at some point you can't separate them fully. They will have to be sisters or cousins.
Okay, makes sense. So for a layman, what is personal branding?
Personal branding, let's first see what is a personal brand. People always have that question. When you speak about personal branding, or when you say a personal brand, someone will want to know, is that me being famous? Is that me being popular? Does that mean I have to sell something for myself? So I start by telling people, I would say personal brand is you, it's me. Before you knew me, I had a personal brand, or I have a personal brand. Whatever it is that maybe you would have been told about me is a component of my personal brand. So to a layman, I would say the moment you are born and you are given a name, you are a personal brand. Like your name being Samuel Kamugisha, now you become a brand. So how you grow up, whatever it is that you do as you're growing up, they start to be components of your personal brand, of your existence. They start to make up bits and pieces of your personal brand. It's as simple as when we are young, someone can differentiate and say, that boy is stubborn, that boy is hardworking, that boy is rowdy, that boy is, people pleasing. So that is your personal brand. Like some people can tell that you are very stubborn, you are very rowdy, and they can tell that you're people pleasing. I have a story I always tell. I tell people in school, especially primary school, I was a very rowdy girl. On the noisemakers list, I would top that list and I would have Victoria XXXX 100. It would come to a point where the teachers would say, since she's the loudest noisemaker, she should be the one to write noisemakers. So now that was my personal brand. Like when you meet my OGs, they will tell you, wow, she doesn't make noise anymore. It's shocking because she was a noisemaker in class. So I think right now, it makes sense to them that I make daily noise on social media platforms. They're like, oh, maybe she translated the noise from shouting to writing to putting it down in paper. So those little things are the first components of our personal brands. But as we transition, as we evolve, then we start to look at personal branding as a combination of your skills, of your experiences, and your personality. So you see the example I gave you about how I was in school. Now that is my personality. Even as a grown-up now, as a 30-year-old woman, it will still be a component of my personality. The difference is the way I give it out will be different. Maybe I cannot make the noise I make, but I can now sit down and put that noise on paper. Now because you've gone through life, you have experiences. So they also make your personal brand. Like what have you seen while growing up? The people you've spoken to, what have you been learning? All of those things. And then the other thing is now our skills and the expertise, what we can do also is a component of your personal brand. So what can you do? Can you do videography? Can you do photography? Can you do content writing? Can you do project management? Then that also becomes a component of your personal brand. And the other, which is a very most important thing, is what we believe in, our ethos, our values. Sometimes you never know the things you believe in. You can't even say my values are this. So maybe sometimes you don't know that these are my values, but you will find yourself unintentionally saying, I can't deal with liars. I just hate people that lie. I don't even know why people that lie. That means, maybe one of your values is integrity. So those 4 components are what can make our personal brands. And that is what a personal brand is.
Are you tired of hearing about Africa's problems without hearing about the solution? Look no further than africanjournal.co. We're a one-stop shop for showcasing the innovative solutions crafted for the African continent. From fintech to proptech, healthcare to media, and everything in between, africanjournal.co is your go-to source for learning about the businesses, startups, innovators, inventors, and entrepreneurs who are rising to the challenge of finding African solutions for African problems. But we're not just about the solutions, we also shine a spotlight on the founders who are bringing these innovations to fruition. Be part of our vision to bridge the gap between Africa and the rest of the world that's interested in investing in Africa. Visit www.africanjournal.co today.
So personal branding is you starting to be intentional about how people get that from you. You know your personality. Like I know I'm a rowdy person. So I now start to control or be intentional about how people get off my rowdiness. I know my experiences. I know the things I've gone through. I know the stories I've had growing up with my father. So now I control how I want people to get those because I want them to have a perception about me. I know my different skill sets in content writing, this marketing, strategy. So now I want to control how people know that about me so that they can actually know those particular things about me. I know the things I believe in. Let's say one of my biggest values is people standing out. Sometimes I call it recognition. I fight for people getting the recognition they deserve in their fields of work. That explains why I say in the African Sisters Network, we want girls to tell their stories, be bold about them to attract the opportunities they deserve. So I stand for recognition. So how do I communicate it so that people know that this is one of the things that Victoria stands for? These days I communicate it in terms of telling people, show up, you have to show up. Visibility is key. You have to show up. So that is what personal branding is. Like, it's a combination of how you showcase your skills, your experiences, your personality, your values, and your expertise to the world. And then you want people to perceive you professionally in that way. So I don't know if I've used so many big terms, but I want to believe if a layman wants to really try to have a picture, they will have some sort of a clear picture about what personal branding is.
Well, you've given, thank you for that. You've given at least a broad picture of what a personal brand is and what personal branding is. So, and of course, there's busted some myths where people say that personal branding might be all about you just talking about yourself. Are there any other myths that you've discovered along the way that about personal branding, and would you like to bust those myths?
Let's see. You started from personal branding might be all about talking. It might be all about talking about yourself. Like I said at the beginning, you are a personal brand. Like, once you start to embody it and know that I'm a brand. So one, you have to be selfish. At some point in time, you have to be selfish about what you want to attract for yourself and what you want people to know about yourself. So it's a myth, but there's a way you can control it. If you want to be selfish, but can you be selfish in a way that you are not speaking about yourself? You are rather giving people value, so they are getting value from you. So you are unintentionally making people know you. You give them what they want, but it's not you saying, I am this, I do this, I am this, I do this. But I'm rather telling you how I do this. I'm teaching you how I do this. So I end up leaving an impression in your mind that actually Victoria is a marketer without me coming and telling you I'm a marketer. So that's how someone can control that. But any other myths I've seen? One, of course, people tend to think that personal branding is only for celebrities. People think that a lot. People think it's only for influencers, that as soon as you start putting yourself out there, you're making your content, people will even label you and say, you're trying to be an influencer because you are being intentional about how you put out your content. So it's totally wrong because, like I said, all of us are brands. So everyone has the opportunity to actually control the narrative about themselves. So when we see these people that are controlling the narrative, we call them influencers. And sadly, when you start to control the narrative, brands are also going to want to work with you because you've set pace of who you are. And you'll not say no to that. So people are really going to label you an influencer. But maybe you are a personal brand and now you are becoming an influencer, or you're speaking on behalf of brands. So that is one of the biggest myths. Like, people think it's for influencers and public figures, but everyone has a personal brand. So you just have to be intentional about controlling it. Then the other thing is, the one you said, people think it's self-promotion. Like, when you start to actively put yourself out there, I often have my friends tell me, oh, you will see, I love the way you market yourself. I'm like, I'm not marketing myself, people. I'm not really marketing myself. I'm just trying to showcase my strengths and maybe create meaningful connections and relationships for me. I want people to know the things I can do and what value I come with, and you too can do the same. So people tend to have that misunderstanding of, yes, you're promoting yourself, and then someone says, no, I don't want to market myself. But it's not about marketing yourself. It's you wanting people to know, because when you don't tell us, then we don't know what you do. We don't know what value you give. You become a part of the crowd. You see how something happens and they say, the president and 15 others. So you become a part of the 15 others that were in the room when something was happening. But yet you can actually be part of those that they say are the president plus Samuel and Victoria and 13 others. Because, you made us know you. We have that narrative around you. So that's another big myth. And then the other one I also think people think about is people think personal branding is about being famous. So when someone is an introvert, they will say, no, I don't want people to know me. It's going to make me out there. But it's not the case. I have seen introverted people building their personal brands. I'll give you as an example. I take you as an introvert. I don't know why, but we know you. But I know you. I know what you do. I recently came to your LinkedIn DM asking for a particular service. I came asking you, do you offer this kind of service? I would love to take it from you. So it's not about, oh my God, I'm going to become famous. I'm not going to have peace of mind. I'll not be able to sleep in my house or to hang out peacefully because people will be all over in my business. It's just about people knowing what you can do and the value that you can give. Like, you didn't have to come chasing me, or you didn't have to come screaming that I can do this. But with the way you were giving the value, I said, I think I can go and consume this particular service from that person. So those are like some of the big myths I've seen. Maybe the other one is, it has skipped my mind. Yes, maybe the other one is that I've also seen people that think that personal branding is for a particular age. Like, so when I interact with so many young girls and young professionals, they feel like I need to first get a degree, I need to first get a master's or a PhD to be intentional about my personal brand. But at the end of the day, personal branding is for everyone. Like, whether you're 21, 22, 19, you being intentional about what we know about you is your personal brand. So sometimes these girls are confused, but I don't have a certificate, I don't have a degree. So what is that I'll tell people? I'm still studying, and I'm telling them what you are studying is what you can tell us. Why are you even studying what you're studying? All of you are 21 and you've gone to university and you made a choice to study marketing. The other one made a choice to study engineering. That means you have a reason why you study engineering. So reflect on your experiences, reflect on the things that you want to see in your life, and then start shaping a narrative around yourself in those things, because there is that reason why someone is doing nursing, the other one is a teacher, the other one is an engineer. So that is also another very big myth, and it holds so many people back. I don't have the skills, I don't have the expertise, and there is no measure of who has the best skills and who can speak about a particular thing. But the biggest thing is we all have stories. Like, I've gone through experiences, I've gone through things, you've gone through things. So even when I don't have the loudest experience on leadership, I have a story about leadership in my father's house. I've seen how my father is leading us. So I think that's the story I can tell. If I don't have the loudest experience on saving money and finances, but I've been able to save money to keep me going through my days, that is the story I can tell. The way I save $1, $2, $3. So it's about us not underlooking our little experiences, our little stories, and waiting for the magical moment, the wow factor.
The wow factor, indeed.
Yes. Yeah, those are some of the myths that I can think about right now.
Wow, they're quite a fair bit of them, because I think one of the myths I had before was I don't have enough knowledge in that area to build my personal brand. So
Yeah.
those are the challenges I actually faced when I was starting out. As like, I'm not like that lady. She's a superstar. She's an influencer. I can't be part of this ecosystem of personal branding. So I laid back for about 3 years, just still thinking about it, until I was like, you know what? Let's just do it and see how it goes.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I was just now wondering, you've mentioned quite a fair bit about intentionality in terms of building a personal brand, but what are other key ingredients of building a timeless personal brand?
Okay. The number one key ingredient is authenticity. Yes, everyone speaks about authenticity, but this is my understanding of authenticity. You staying who you are for that period of time, like, you know who you are as a person. You know your skills. The last conversation we had, I told you that sometimes we think I need to first get a whole pile of skills. I need a wow factor to start building my personal brand. So that's where authenticity comes in. Like, you knowing that this is where I am at the moment. I have no degree, or maybe I have 2-3 years of experience, or I'm still in school and this is what I'm going through in school. So this is what I can start with, and keeping evolving in that direction. And that is a very important thing, like just staying true to who you are, to your values, to your voice, to who you are as a person in general. It's a very important component of building a personal brand. Because every time when I know that this is what I can do as Victoria, the example I can use is, I really can't imagine myself being in a conversation about leadership. Like, I don't know much about leadership. The only story I can tell about leadership is my father. He's a leader I've grown up seeing for the past 30 years. I've experienced other leaders in workplaces and schools, but I can't tell authentic stories about their leadership. So I just don't imagine myself sitting and maybe writing a piece about leadership in a country or leadership in workspaces or things of that nature. So like, that is one thing of me knowing what I have and what I don't have. I'll give you another example. 2-3 weeks ago, someone reached out to me. They wanted me to speak about, I think, personal branding beyond the C-suite. How can C-suite executives leverage their personal brands? Leverage their positions to grow their personal brands beyond the C-suite. And it was a very interesting conversation, but I told that person, I think I'm not the right person to really speak about that particular topic. They asked me why. I said, I've not really sat in a C-suite before. Like, I've not sat in a C-suite position. I don't have the experience to say that even this is what is limiting them. So I want to beckon them to, you guys, you need to do this, because the impact of the session was for these CEOs, CFOs, CTOs to know that it's not just about rolling in the chair, but we can take an extra mile to do ABCD and E to build a personal brand. But I feel like for you to be in that space, you literally have to really also know what do they experience and what is stopping them from going out there and being extra intentional about their personal brands. So I didn't want to have to be in a conversation and I'm only speaking about put content, write content, network, and I don't know if these people never have time to write content. So I told her, I feel I'm not the right person to be in that kind of seat and share those experiences. And I told them, but I feel if there's a way we can actually engage one C-suite executive, let's say right now in Uganda, the CEO of MTN has a very strong personal brand. I don't know if there's a way you can engage that kind of person, like the CEO of MTN, and have her speak to those CEOs what she's doing so that they can know that this is how they can build their personal brands beyond the C-suite. Because it's going to speak to them. They're going to listen and they'll know that, oh, she's speaking the truth because, she's in the same chair like us. So she experiences the same things. She has the same hardships. She's juggling the board, partners, all of these things. And she's able to do these things. So that's one way or one example of like being authentic. It starts from knowing what you have at the moment, how you can leverage what you have while you keep building. So that you know that this is what I have. I have my story, I have my experiences, I have ABCD expertise. So I'm going to stay true to myself in that direction. The other thing which everyone keeps speaking about is, of course, I spoke of values, like knowing some of the things that you stand for. You know it, like you have it deep inside you. You have those fires that you stand for. And when you know those values, when you know that I stand for recognition, I stand for this, oh my God, you're unstoppable. Like nobody can stop you. Nobody can tell me that what I'm doing with the African Sisters Network doesn't make sense. Because I know it makes sense. Like I know people need to stand out. People need recognition. People are doing amazing work. So when you have those things that you stand for as a person, you're going to be able to build a timeless personal brand. Like, there is no day you're going to be found speaking the opposite. Like last time you were saying women need to stand out or girls need to stand out. And then tomorrow you're saying, no, girls need to be at home cooking food. So you're unclear on your values. Like you're just unclear on who you are and what you stand for as a person. But if people are getting the same message from you consistently, year in, year out, when they find you're speaking about the same thing, then you're able to build a timeless personal brand. Now that drives us to this next thing, consistency. You're authentic, you know who you are, you know what you're capable of doing at the moment and how you can leverage it. You have your values, so you have to be consistent. Consistent in your message, consistent in how you deliver it, consistent in where you deliver it. Like, it's not about just putting out the message, but consistent in that message. It's a very important thing to be consistent in your message all the time. Not, there should not be any kind of twist in your story, a twist of turns in what you're communicating. So consistent in your message, consistent in how you deliver your message, and consistent in where you deliver your message. Those things are very important, because if we know that we interact with Samuel on LinkedIn And this is the way I interact with this brand. When I come and meet you on Instagram, the same interaction should be the same. When I come on a podcast interview with you, I need to have the same interaction with you, like, so that I don't have any, it's just like customer touch points for a business. So if I interact with a business on via call, via SMS on the website, the interaction should be the same, so that I know that, there's that kind of consistency. Even with personal branding, it should be that same. So that someone that met you last year can actually reference to you this year and say, yes, you can speak to Samuel. He can get that thing done. And yet they worked with you last year. So that someone that had you speak, let's say someone listens to this episode of this podcast today, and they listen to another episode I made 2 or 3 months ago. But if the way I'm speaking about the African Sisters Network, or even what I'm doing, if me as a person, the way I'm speaking about what I'm doing is different, on the other podcast, I was having a totally different conversation, and on this podcast, it's a different conversation, then I'm going to confuse my audience. So you see why it even moves from you, the brand, to now the people that are consuming your brand. So consistency is very important in your message, how you deliver your message across platforms, and all of the other aspects. And the other thing I would say is clarity, being clear on what you want to achieve, being clear on your values, being clear on your mission, being clear on those different things. That one helps when you ever have some external factors pulling you down. Every time you know where you want to go and you want to achieve with your personal brand, because personal branding is not a walk in a park. It's a process. I have learned that it's a process. That's why I tell people I have a 20-year growth plan, because I know it's a process. So when you have that kind of clarity that this is what I would like to achieve with what I'm doing, I want to be known as this person or that person, then you're able to build what you've called a timeless brand. Like, you have continuity. This year I'm doing this, next year I'm doing that. What I would love people to know is that personal branding, especially intentional personal branding, is not just sitting down and saying, I'm going to put content on social media. It's you having clear direction that what I'm doing has to lead me here. I'm doing this, but I need to get this out of it. So many things. Do you want to just get brand partnerships? Do you want to grow your visibility? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to start a podcast? Even when you don't have a clear picture, but you at least have the clarity that I want to be known as this person. This is the legacy I want to leave. This is what I want to do. Clarity is very important. Every time an external factor pulls you down, in your mind, you're like, no way, I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. So you're able to put through. And the other thing that is very important, I think it's networking, like being intentional, knowing that it's not just about you. Like building your personal brand is not just about you and putting out content, but networking with people. Networking online, networking offline. One thing I've learned is networking helps you build relationships. It connects you to people. Like, we are here on this podcast, but we have never met in life. We've never met in real life. But those little bits of networking, like networking online in terms of, responding to comments, engaging in people's content, networking offline, those are very important. Like, you gain a lot of social capital from networking, and nothing grows us as individuals like social capital. People start to recommend you simply because they know you, they've seen how you're doing your work, or they've experienced you. So I often tell people, like, be selfish about your brand in terms of first want to get your things done, but then also be selfish about your growth and how you want to grow. So, you're getting it's just like how we women want to make ourselves look beautiful. You're doing all of this skincare, touching yourself up. Now, in personal branding, you're putting out your content, you're doing the photo shoots and everything. But as you're doing all of that, also be the same kind of selfishness you are with the brand, be that selfish with the growth as well. So that you know that I have to be selfish, that I have to engage with this person selfishly if I want to grow as a brand. So you being selfish in that is, so I really have to engage selfishly because I want to grow. So I'm going to make sure I follow up with them. I'll follow them on Instagram. I'll follow up on LinkedIn. I will engage with their content because I feel like their energy speaks to my energy. Those are some of the companies, those are some of the things I have seen like help me. I live with those every day. And I've seen them at least do some good magic for my brand.
I love the fair bit of talking about of having the plan, and your personal brand has to lead to something. And when I saw your African Sisters Network coming up, I was like, yes, now this one fits perfectly for Victoria. I wouldn't see any other thing that would fit into what she has been talking about for the past 2 years. So the moment you launched it, I was like, this one. If it was me, take my money.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a nice compliment.
And also leading to that, why African Sisters Network? Even if, yes, it fits perfectly into it. Why did you go into the direction of African Sisters Network?
Yeah, so many people ask me that question. I don't know, so many people ask me the question because many of my friends thought, now that you're putting yourself out there, probably you're going to take the direction of maybe a content marketing agency. You know, there are agencies that write for people on platforms like LinkedIn. You know, you have a group of ghostwriters and you write for CEOs and founders and all of the things. Maybe a marketing agency. Others thought I could start a marketing agency. But I started the African Sisters Network, one, because I understood my audience, or I actually still understand my audience. I was having so many young girls that would reach out to me asking me just those little questions. Victoria, can you mentor us? How can we learn to just write content the way you write it? Oh my God, I want to learn this from you. I want to learn that from you. Like, there were so many questions. And I then also started reflecting on the way I grew up. And the way I grew up, it's at that point that it hit me that I was actually a very ambitious young girl. Like, I was super, super ambitious, but I had no one to just hold my hand and even show me the right way or the right direction. Because I remember when I was 17, I used to write songs. There was an artist in Uganda called Bella. I don't know if you knew Bella. Yes.
You know, the dancer.
Exactly. Bella Mbagamba, Chino Chikiri, that one. So because I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I can write songs for artists like Bella. So I used to sit down and write like an entire song. I give it in the way I think a song could sound. You know, I have a chorus, I have part 1, part 2, and all of those things. I have an introduction. Then I also used to write. At some point, I also sat down and I think wrote a movie script. I'm like, I think I can also write a movie. I start scene 1. I just don't know where these things would come from. But I would sit and write. Wow. I remember writing a movie script about, in my head, I'm like, I think people can act a movie script about Rihanna and Chris Brown's life. You remember when Rihanna and Chris Brown were dating?
They had that fight and all those things.
Yes, you got it. So I sat down and wrote a script, scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and all of those different things. So I used to do little things. And then from that, when I was 18, I then went into beauty pageants. I did a couple of beauty pageants in Uganda. Miss Uganda 2013, Miss Tourism Uganda 20, Miss Uganda 2013, 2014, Miss Uganda 2013, Miss Tourism 2014, Miss University Uganda 2015. Like, I don't know. I don't know where all of this fire was coming from, but I didn't want to be an everyday person. Like, I kept on pushing myself to go beyond my limits, to do things that not every ordinary person or every ordinary girl my age would do. But I feel like I didn't have someone to maybe tell me that, okay, so this is your purpose or this is your passion, so let me push you in this direction. Because just imagine writing songs, then movie scripts, then beauty pageants, then you get into career, all of those different things. So as the girls kept on approaching me, asking all of these questions, it really struck me that yes, I think these girls are going through what I was going through exactly. Like, you have things that you want to do. You see people that are doing amazing things and you would like to also do amazing things, but you have no direction. You have no one to also show you that maybe you can start like this. Sometimes it's even as simple as someone just having a 30-minute session with someone and they give you clarity, like no one is giving you clarity. Sometimes it's as simple as access to a tool or to a resource or just a webinar, just one webinar about, maybe discovering your purpose, and your life will change. So I said, I think I can create something where I can get to mentor and speak to a group of young African girls And we can do this with other coaches, other mentors, and other people. Girls that have the drive, girls that just want extra and they want a lot more with life can have a place where they call home, where they belong. And we can have different sessions, mentorship, coaching for them to become the better versions of themselves. So that's how we ended up with the African Sisters Network. Because I had to think a lot, of course, now. So how do I call this? What should it be? What's the name? So many different things. I think I wanted to first call it the Big Sissy Network, because I'm a firstborn daughter. So I'm like, I grew up without a big sister. So I had no one to speak to, no one to hold my hand. So I think I can call it, the Big Sissy Network. Then I'm like, but Big Sissy will just speak to just that. Then in my head, I'm like, but it's not just about even that. I would want this thing to communicate to all African girls of African descent, African girls in the diaspora, like all African girls that would want that kind of belonging. So I said, why am I struggling with all of these things? African sisters in a network, the African Sisters Network. That's how I came up with it. So, nice. Like I told you at the beginning, we are like, it's a movement, it's a community, that is a coaching and mentorship community. And what we do is empowering African girls to tell their stories. If someone is keen enough, as on this podcast, what I've done is everything you ask me, I have a reference of my story. Because I know that whatever skills, expertise, what I've studied in school, everyone has studied, or people can do what I speak about in school. But the experience, the story is mine alone. No one is going to come and say, at the age of 17, I did A, B, C, D that Victoria did. So I always want, that's one of the core, like we know that what can make people stand out or what will make them unique is them embracing those little components of their stories, use them to build their personal brands, be able to stand out and attract the right opportunities they deserve. Like think about maybe what opportunities would I get if I had probably focused on writing what I was writing, or maybe anything that I was doing at that young age. So those are the things that we want to do. So the community has a number of girls from different countries. From Kenya, I think our biggest audience is Uganda. Then we have Kenya, Zambia, Malawi, and South Africa. And that's what we do. A lot of coaching, a lot of mentorship, a lot of holding each other's hand. And I told you our mission, by 2040, we want to have empowered 1 million African.
1 million. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very bold vision. Mm-hmm. Really bold. And I like getting down into the problems. Have you faced challenges when setting up African Sisters Network, and how did you solve them?
Yeah, of course. There have been challenges, but not so many. One of the challenges would have been building awareness, especially in terms of why you want to do this. Every time you explain to people, they just don't get it because they're like telling stories, personal branding. Why would someone say they're doing something for personal branding? Why are you investing your money in empowering people to build their personal brand? Like people don't see that kind of the importance of it. Why is it that that's what you have to do? I think because the market has been saturated a lot with also conversations about topics like leadership. So if there's a mentorship community, it's about, empowering the next generation of African leaders, empowering girls into leadership roles and everything. So personal branding, people were not seeing the sense for it. But that is what also brought in the need. Like, if you are not seeing somebody doing it, that means there's actually a need for it. Because if you're going to coach or mentor a young girl into a leadership position, she needs to know how does she position herself to get that position. So every time I would face that kind of pull and push about trying to explain my value proposition, the answer would still be in that conversation that, you see, you're speaking about mentoring girls into leadership and stopping this and, education. But when all of those things are done, these people need opportunities. They need to stand out. So how do they get to that bit? That's where the African Sisters Network comes in. So we've been able to create a lot of awareness in terms of content creation. Like I put out a lot of content emphasizing and saying girls need to stand out. Girls need to be doing this. Girls need to be doing this. And now, people are starting to pick it up. We've been running something on LinkedIn that we call Momentum Monday. We run it every Monday, and we've been hosting like some industry leaders that come and share their experiences, tell their stories, and just inspire people in different aspects. And with that, also people go to have a feel of, okay, this is what this movement is about. This is what they're doing. So at least we're able to just get a hold of that challenge. Then the other is going to be funding, how to go about that. I would say that's a very big one, because my dreams for the network are broad. What I want to achieve with it is crazy. I told you I have a 20-year personal brand growth plan. The reason why it's actually 20 years is I've given the next 10 years of my life to the African Sisters Network. I would want to grow it, scale it. Then I'll give my brand the other 10 years. So my visions or my dreams for it are crazy. I would want us to have a book club, like the African Sisters Network, then the African Sisters Network book club, where girls can, we want them to grow personally, career development, and all of those things. And one thing I've noticed is, as African people, we don't love to read. So if I want you people to grow, I need to create a way where you can actually come and read, and it's fun and it's engaging. So that's one of the things that maybe a project we want to launch next year, like the African Sisters Network book club, where we can have a book that we are reading in a month. And, we get onto a Zoom call and someone is reading a chapter. We then take lessons. What have we learned? It's a lot. I also want to have an agency with it. You see, when we have some of these girls, let's say some of them are very good content writers, script writers, and all of those things. Can we have an agency where the idea that people once thought I would do of writing content for top professionals, can these girls be getting that work? Like, this is a content writing agency. The girls that have learned how to do this, these founders, these CEOs that need help writing their content, managing their personal brands, these girls learn how to do it and they start doing it for them. So it's one way to teach them how to do something. It's another way to give them an opportunity to make a living while doing that thing. So I'd also love for the network to be doing that. It's a lot, so.
Wow. You already even answered my next question of what's the future of African Sisters Network.
It's a lot. So, funding, scaling, because we need to reach a we need to reach a wider audience. Someone once asked me to break down the numbers, like how can we hit 1 million girls? And when I gave them the breakdown, they were like, oh, wow. So it's a lot, especially now to hit the number of 1 million girls. By next year, we need to be having at least 10 coaches in the network, and every coach is coaching over 500 girls. Wow. So funding, scaling, but we are doing what we can. And right now, the biggest thing that we can is, build awareness and create partnerships and see. But I know the future is bright. I know it's bright.
And you see, I like the phrase of despise not days of humble beginnings. I know that you will hit that target, because it's going to take a stretch, but nothing is impossible so long as at least you do the first bold move of starting.
Yes.
So in your experience of now running the African Sisters Network, why do you think businesses might be able to fail? And what could be the solutions to divert that failure of the business?
Whoa. Wow. Oh, that's a big one. One, I would think, or I will reference it to me. I think one would be lack of a clear vision and strategy. I think that is a very big thing that can lead a business to failure. So every time if you speak to a business owner or a founder and they're unable to give you clarity on what they're building, like where do they want to go? So, where do you want to go? How do you see this business change? What could be the future in the next 5 or 10 years? And there's just no clarity. Yes, so you see this, that. I always like telling people that if you don't know where you want to go, if you just don't know where you want to go, you cannot get there. Because you don't know where you want to go. You're not clear. You're trying, and yes, they tell us to try and fail, but I've also learned from successful entrepreneurs and founders and all of those CEOs that if you really know where you want to go, like this is where I want to go, you're able to get there because you start to put in place different maybe systems, or you start to think of how do I get there. I've given you the example of, so if I say that my mission is 1 million girls by 2040, I came back and started to break it down. So how many girls do we have to impact? Because we have a space of, I think, 16 or 15 years. How many girls do we have to impact in between now, 2024, literally, which is done. So 2025 and 2040, those are 15 years. So I came down and broke down numbers. So every year I need to impact this number of girls. How do I start? Where do I start from? So when I feel it's that just not knowing where you want to go. It's so funny that even if you are not in a business, even if it's just selling product, and you really know that in the next 5 years I need to have sold these tons of product, then it's going to move from being within you, like internally the fire is coming from your stomach, to pushing you to then start to execute. How do I start? Do I need to build partnerships? Do I need to engage people? Do I need to get funding? Do I need to secure a loan? What do I have to do? So you stop working and moving from whatever come may come. I'm living day by day. I'm doing my best to actually make sure that you're not just doing your best, but you're doing what you are supposed to do. It's different. It's one thing to do your best. It's one thing to do what you are supposed to do. Because you could be doing your best, but it's not what you're supposed to do. It's your best. Like, I'm doing my best. But are you supposed to do that? Because your vision, your mission, requires you to do something else. So I think that is one of the things, like just lack of a clear vision and strategy is very important. It calls me and it beckons me to the fact that I told my team we have a 2 days meeting or workshop to plan for 2025. Like, one day is for 2025 strategic mission, like strategic plan, and the other day is for a digital plan, like to sit and put everything in place that Q1 we want to do this, Q2 we want to do this, Q3 we want to do this. So how do we do those things? Who do we engage? How do we network? How do we position ourselves in that direction? And I was speaking to one of my friends and she told me, you are being very serious. And I told her, I think if you are not that level of serious, then you don't achieve what you want to achieve. Because she said, this is something you've done for 6 months and you're calling people for a strategic meeting. Why? I told her, if we have that strategic meeting and we put things down on paper and we have a strategic plan really outlined, even if I'm busy, I'm going to give that strategic plan to another manager or to somebody and tell them, this was our plan. So how do we start implementing and what do we need to implement? So I feel sometimes business owners or founders or people, like, we tend to take our ventures as little things. Also that thing that they put in our minds, small business owners, you are startup, you are starting this. So we look at them as little things. So this is my little thing, and we don't operate the way we have to operate them. I reference it so much to personal branding because I tell people, look at your personal brand like the business brand. Look at the brands you admire. Look at Coca-Cola. Look at Apple. Look at Nokia. Look at Samsung. If you take yourself like that business brand, there are small aspects you're going to learn from it. One of them is, let's say, business brands don't just change their logos. So why are you changing your profile picture, your headshot every day? Every day you take a new photo, you update a headshot. Why are you doing that? So I want people, or I always tell people, like, even whatever it is that you're doing, like, just look at the people. The reason why those businesses or those people have been successful is for those particular reasons. And we are meant to learn from them. So for me, it helps a lot. Like, have a clear plan, have a clear strategy, because that is what successful business do. Successful businesses sit in November, they have workshops, they think, they brainstorm how they're going to succeed in the next year. Unsuccessful businesses sit in January and they're like, what should we do when other businesses are already launching great things? That's a very important one. Then the other thing which I would think about is maybe poor financial management. That one I'm going to still like just not keeping track of your finances, not knowing where you spend and how you spend. And that also comes in when we approach our ventures as small businesses. Like, this is a small business, I don't track, I'm not tracking anything. And it's as simple as maybe creating an Excel, like have an Excel where you track money in, money out, money spent, where it was spent. So that when you sit, you're able to know, I made 1 million shillings, I spent 900,000. Where did I spend it on this thing? I was doing it with my team in October because we launched in July. So we're now just tracking. Have we made money? Or, we had people that bought memberships. How many bought memberships? How many came to the launch? But how much money have we put in? And we noticed, it's as simple as it should be, that we have put in a lot of money, but not made money. So if we were not tracking, or if we are not that intentional to even just track finances, and we are looking at it that, this is my passion, I love it, then passion might continue to drain you day in, day out. So just keeping track of your finances, like investing in financial literacy and knowing that this is how I need to track my money, despite it being, I hate it. I hate the word small business or small venture or personal venture. But because we have it in our minds, this is my personal venture. I love it. I'm just, doing what I love. So I'm even willing to invest in as much as I can. You keep looking at it as a small venture for the next 10 years until when it drains you, you're like, I'm done. And the business goes down. Then the other thing would be, which is a very important one, is ignoring customer feedback. This cuts across in different spheres. I've learned that it's not even just customers are important or they are right, but our businesses, our ventures depend on customers. It takes you back to why I started the African Sisters Network. That I first took, it was from what were people asking for? What were these girls asking for? There was no many CEOs in my DM asking for personal branding support. There were no many founders asking for it, but there were young girls asking for it. So for me, that led me to even creating a product for them. Like that, the initial feedback or interaction with my audience led me to creating a product for them. So now as a business, even businesses, like just being so intentional with customer feedback, feedback surveys, whatever, just engage, knowing what a customer is asking for. Recently, I watched something on LinkedIn where some guy said that you can reinvent your product depending on what your customers ask for. Like, let's say your product is a book, but when you sell it to people as a book, they use it for something else. Can you continue to start collecting that feedback and finding out why is it that when I give these people this book, they use it for this purpose? If I'm giving you, what's the example I can use? If I'm giving you a bottle shaped in a certain way because I feel it's going to be very good for your juice, and it's a juice bottle maybe, and you take it to the gym. Like you take it to the gym, and every customer is taking the bottle to the gym. I think it's high time do I need to twist around and even have these bottles communicate fitness? Can I now start putting a message on them that is saying, you go girl, you're doing it, go harder, do it, you can handle it. So that thing, like listening to customer feedback, because they buy into the products or services and they know how they use them. So it's always very important that we ask them, how are you using this product? Is it meeting your needs? What do we have to improve? What can we add in? Because in that way, we're going to keep dumping to them what we feel like is right, and then we're not giving them what they want to get. So for me, it's been those three, and personally, I'm really living in them, and I want to live in them and see that they can make a lot of sense to me.
Thanks for sharing, Victoria. I love the fact that you don't like to focus on saying small business. That means people should, when they build their business, they should believe that they're going to grow beyond being small.
Big businesses that are going to take over Africa, businesses that are going to just skyrocket. I don't know for them, but for me, the African Sisters Network is a big thing. It's going to shake the continent.
Yes, it really began doing the earthquakes.
Yeah.
So, taking a step back and we look at Victoria, what would be the best advice you'd give your 19-year-old self?
Oh, but you know what I'll tell my 19-year-old self? I think you know, but I'll still repeat it. I think what I'll tell my 19-year-old self is, one, I would love her to really take time and just discover her strengths, her passions, and what sets her heart on fire. I'll tell her, take time, just get those things. It's not about getting them right, but discover them. Know that this, that, or this. I love to do this. I love to do that. I love to do this. That's one of the things I'll tell her to do, so that she knows that this is what I can give the world, and this is what the world has to give from me. Because if you remember my story I told you, so at 17, it's like I knew my strengths, but I didn't know how to give it to the world. So at my 19-year-old self, I'll really tell her, discover them, discover your strength, discover your passions, and then start giving them to the world. Like, figure out how you can give them to the world in a way that, of course, at 19, I would not know it's building my personal brand, but see how I can position myself as that person of those skills. But it's not only that. I also, there are things I can tell her is just, it's okay to fail. I've learned that it's okay to fail. Like, failure is a stepping stone, so it's okay to fail. It's okay if I feel this is what I can do and I don't do it right, and I try and do it over and over again. It's very okay, but it stems from me identifying and discovering that, yes, this is what I can do, this is what I can give to the world, and try it, fail, but it's what I can do. What is it? Then I've also learned, and I would tell my 19-year-old self, that it's never too soon to position yourself for opportunities. It's never too soon. I have learned this recently, like turning 30, and I look at girls at 23, 22 that are doing amazing things, that are doing the things I would have wanted to be doing at their age. And I'm like, wow, you young girls are doing incredible things. So it's never too early. When you discover your strength, when you discover your passions, what you can do, give it to the world. Like, figure out how you can give it to the world. If back then I had really felt that, okay, I have this passion, I think I can write different things. I don't know, maybe I would have walked to the different newspapers and said, let me try and write for you some things. I don't know, but it's never too early. If they can, discover what it is that sets your heart on fire, what you can do, figure out how the world can embrace it, and start. Yeah.
I like the one that stood out for me is, it is never too early to position yourself
for opportunities.
Yeah, I've seen one of the people who have also blown up. They are quite young. I think she's called Lara Acosta on LinkedIn. I'm like, wow. Just you saying, wow. I wish at that age I had those kind of explosive opportunities.
Exactly.
And also, now we've talked about your past. What about your future? How would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered? Wow. Oh my God. This thought that, no, really, this podcast is going to let me just speak about all of these things, but it's okay. I think I would like to be remembered as, I know in the next 30, 40 years, I will have been like a really transformative leader. So I'd like to be remembered as, that one young girl that dared, like, she dared herself. She dared to go for it. She dared to go for it in a very strong, in a very crazy way. When I tell you in a very crazy way, with time it's going to unfold how crazy all of these plans are, all of my plans are. So I'd love to remember as what that young girl. I say young because I'm 30, I'm young. Even at 40, I'll still be saying I would like to remember as that young girl that dared to go for it against all odds, and really like said, I'm going for it, and I'm not just going for it alone. I'm going for it with a tribe, with a community behind me. So I want to be remembered for the people, for going for it, and for the girls I'm going to help go for it. Like, it's not just, I don't want my legacy to be Victoria Nyanzi. I want it to be Victoria Nyanzi with Stella, with Noeline, with Trudy, with Peru, with Sheila, with this one. Do you see that one? Do you see Forbes 30 under 30? Do you see that girl? Oh my God, she has made 40 Ugandans being Forbes 30 under 30. Like, that's how I want my legacy to be a very big, strong, a line of impact. All of these lives of young African girls that will be impacted, and spaces that are being created for them, and a lot of uplifting and a lot of empowerment.
Your vision is very heavy on supporting an ecosystem of ladies to explode, as I can best say it.
Yes. Yeah.
This is really impressive.
That's as I told you, this podcast, like, people are just going to know what's happening in my head. If people listen to it, they're going to be like, that's what's happening in her mind.
Yeah, we've dug down the wow factor in her.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Well, it's really it's an awesome conversation, Victoria. But as all good things have to come to an end, and there is not enough time for us even to finish all this. But as we wind this up, what would be your final remarks, and where can people find you?
My one is I always love to tell people that your story is your superpower. Like, it's that thing. No one can take it away from you. So people need to learn to embrace their stories and tell their stories as much as they can. Our stories are all of the things that we've spoken about on this podcast. Plans for the future, what I've gone through, how I'm running this, and like I said before, that everything else, tips, concepts, principles, whatever. So many principles are out there on how to live life, how to choose between purpose and passion, how to do all of the things. But the one thing that will not be found even in an AI script is your story as a human being, as a brand, your experience, and it connects you to people in a deeper way. So I always like, my final remark to anyone that listens to this podcast is just embrace your story. Your story is your superpower. When you tell it boldly, it can open doors to incredible opportunities. I just don't know how many people are going to listen to this podcast, and everyone is going to pick out something. I know people will come asking, you said this, you spoke about an agency, you spoke about this, you spoke about that. How can we be of help? How can we help you? How can we support you? So for me, that is like how powerful telling your story and your experiences is. It goes beyond any kind of written script, because people can find written scripts everywhere, like they are all over the internet, but how you express yourself authentically is not on the internet. So that's one of the takeaways I would give someone. And then the other is, of course, building our brand with intention, like with a lot of intention. Know where you want to go and just be so curious, be so intentional about getting to those places. That's very important. And of course, as this is a point where we have to rewrite the narrative for African girls. This is the point. Especially, I have a very huge or a very big heart for Uganda. What hurts me is the fact that we have not had a Forbes 30. I don't know if you've had Forbes 30 under 30 in Uganda.
I think it is, what's her name? Must have been Natalie Bitature?
Probably. Like, we've not seen those kind of things, like that kind of recognition. We've not had so many young Ugandans, entrepreneurs, founders, like, get recognition in that direction. Like, and those are things that it's about the time we kind of rewrite that narrative, because people down here, like, people are doing incredible things. People are founding, or like they're founders of all of these wonderful things. People have sleepless nights in offices trying to build all of these things, but they don't get the recognition they deserve. So that's one thing that I wish all of us can take up and be like, you know what? It's about that time that we write the narrative for our work, for what we do. And it starts with all of us. It cannot be something that Victoria alone will do. It's something that, do you even want to do it? Like, you as Samuel, you as Claire, you as, Stella, as James, do you want to get the recognition that you deserve for the hard work you put in, in your work and everything? Then if you want that recognition, it's high time you start being intentional about telling your story, building your personal brand, and making sure that your voice is heard. Someone might think I'm a politician.
Wow.
Someone might think I'm a politician. Where can people find me? If someone wants to look me up, I use the same names on all social media pages. So it's Victoria Nyanzi. Victoria, the way Lake Victoria is written, or the way Queen Victoria is written. And then Nyanzi is Nyanzi. That's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on X, on TikTok, and everywhere. And just reach out to me, send me a message in the DM that you listen to the podcast, and we can have a conversation. And I'm always open to connections, to meeting new people, to networking with them, to supporting them, to seeing how we can all build each other up. And Samuel, thank you so much for having me. I have loved this conversation so much.
Oh, it's really an honor having you on board. And one thing that I always remember is your story is your superpower.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Victoria.
Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you for listening to the WowFactor podcast, and I believe that all the nuggets of wisdom from this conversation have been very beneficial to you. We would like to hear your feedback. Drop us a line at thewowjournal.com/feedback. We look forward to hearing all your amazing experiences with listening to the podcast. Catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.